Well, hello there, friends and lovers. Ooh, especially this week. Thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, and we are glad you are here on this fine, superb Owl Sunday.
It's the superb owl. As a matter of fact, there might actually be something called the Seahawks involved. I'm not entirely sure if the Owls and Seahawks are going to go at it and who's going to win.
Ooh, good point.
We'll see.
And what has the patriotism got to do with it? Well, let's figure all of that out on this fine February 8th, 2026. This is the 39th day of this, it gets caught in the tongue. 39th day of this, your best year yet. Is it our best year yet? It's wintertime in Motown, Snowtown, and yeah, we're doing pretty good. Pretty good so far. Hope you are too. Please.
Pretty good is okay.
Yeah, please join us in the chat. Oh, there we go. My chat was silent right up until the last second, and now it's full of you good people.
Hello there.
I don't know. Maybe my page just didn't refresh, but it is good to see you. We are competing with the Super Bowl pre-shows out there. So if you're a Super Bowl watcher, thank you. And if you're not a Super Bowl watcher, thank you for joining us. We're glad you are here. What did I say? 39th day of the year, 326 days left to make this your best year yet. 320 days until Christmas, 266 days to decide what kind of candy you're giving out on Halloween. 40 days until spring, unless you're south of the equator, in which case you've got 40 days until autumn. That tells me Easter is coming up. Well, Easter falls on a very special day this year.
It does.
It's kind of like the Super Bowl, which every year we seem to be competing with them. It's like they always have it on a Sunday. And that other holiday that's coming up this year on April 5th.
Yes, April 5th.
Yeah, that would be Amy Nasir's birthday.
That's Bunny Day.
But there's also like this resurrection thing out there, like Zombie Sunday.
Do I have to die and be reborn? And do I get to float into the sky? That's what I want to know.
Yes, well, you do not need to be born again. You were born right the first time.
Yes.
Also, our favorite count, our least favorite count, but I'm going to say it anyway, 1,078 days. 1,078 days until January 1st, 2029.
Woo!
Maybe I'll just call that the "this too shall pass" number.
Yeah. I mean, so
like a kidney stone.
2029 is actually going to be an epic year, not for the obvious reasons, but also because it's going to be 100th anniversary of the Henry Ford Museum in Greenfield Village, and that's going to be really spectacular, and I'm so looking forward to that. So,
outstanding.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. This year is great. 250th anniversary of this fine nation. And depending on what that means to you, but I'm going to go back in history. I'm going to go back on this date, February 8th. It is February 8th. February 8th, 1587. Mary, Queen of Scots, was beheaded.
That's tough.
Yeah, and after 19 years of imprisonment. Like, what the heck? Rude much?
You know, they didn't really have a lot of rights back then, much less than we do now, if you can believe it.
Yes. Well, Mary did bring up an uprising against the monarchy. And it just brings to mind that, yeah, we don't do that anymore. We don't behead people. Mm-hmm. And I know that the present administration wants to bring back the death penalty in more cases, but I liked Ayn Rand's answer to that, because there's always the possibility of getting it wrong.
Yes.
The death penalty may be just, but given that human beings are not omniscient, and even people who will confess to a crime will sometimes falsely confess to it, either through their own misunderstanding of what they actually did, or just out of some other guilt, or the so-called, death by cop, a desire to commit suicide. So let's not chop the heads off of people. Especially not Mary, Queen of Scots. I don't know, it's such a charming name. I'm sure she was horrible and deserved it, but I'm not buying it. I don't know. Also on February 8th, Del Shannon dies of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Yeah, that was kind of a sad one for me to see. But it brought to mind a question that we're not going to talk much about tonight, but it is a question. In a free society, what do you do with people suffering from mental illness? There are tough questions out there to be answered, and that is one of them. There are other questions that are out there that people treat like they're tough, and they're really, really not. And I want to make that distinction. We will get to that. Incidentally, Del Shannon's shot himself shortly after starting to take Prozac. And right away, his family decided to then sue the manufacturer. But a lot of people took Prozac and did not have suicidal ideation. So I don't know if I'm buying that one. I just find Runaway one of my favorite songs to play and sing. Not the Bon Jovi one, but the Del Shannon song. It's also James Dean's birthday, talking about people who died too young at 24, died in a car accident, was one of the great actors. Mm-hmm. And we got to end it with people who are still alive, and I've got two of them today. It is John Williams' birthday. John Williams is still above ground, 93 years old. You know, I wonder, Amy, I know you're looking forward to the Harry Potter series that are coming out.
Well, it's the full cast. So basically, I've gotten through Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, as they say, the Chamber of Secrets, and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and in a couple days, the Goblet of Fire is going to be coming out.
Yeah, and we've recommended those. I think we even mentioned them last week.
Yeah.
But what I was talking about was the television series that are being produced
by HBO. You know, I don't exactly know where that's at.
I know you had some issues though with the original Warner Brothers films.
I did.
And my real question is, I love the Warner Brothers films, even though, I have some, issues about them too, but I love them. The real question is, can HBO possibly match the music that John Williams put together?
I think they can.
He only scored the first 3 films, but his themes were used throughout the whole series.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why. They, if you listen to the full cast versions on Audible so far, especially for Prisoner of Azkaban, the music is excellent.
Oh, good.
It's really good.
And they're not reusing the film themes?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it can be done.
It can be done, and it's good. So I'm really
skeptical that it can be as good as John Williams, who incidentally is the most nominated person alive in the Academy Awards, which makes perfect sense considering all of the films that he has scored. And one more birthday today, and I've shared this one before. It is Bethany Hamilton's birthday. She is 35 years old. She was only 13 years old. She's a professional surfer. She was only 13 years old when a tiger shark bit off one of her arms. Oh. And,
but she
didn't stop her. She is still one of the world-class champion surfer.
Yes.
And can't be stopped.
Nope, she did not stop.
I keep her quote up on my refrigerator. It says, "I don't need easy, I just need possible."
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. So happy 30, where did I lost my note here? 35th birthday to Bethany Hamilton.
Nice.
Under holidays, it is Superb Owl Sunday, which takes place on the second Sunday every February. That's why it keeps clashing with our show. Okay. All right. And share with us in the chat if you are following the NFL this year. And are you rooting for the Seahawks, who, are probably loosely related to the Superb Owl, or are you rooting for the Patriots? I know almost nothing about it. I'm loosely rooting for New England, but
I think the Patriots were in the Super Bowl or the Superb Owl before. I think.
Oh, many times, yeah.
And but I think this time they have a whole new set of people. So it's like a different team.
It's amazing, isn't it? We had this conversation. I forget if we did this online or not, but yeah, what do you do with orchestras? The New York Philharmonic has replaced every musician, some of them many, many times over. They have gone through conductors the way a man cold goes through Kleenex. It's still the New York Philharmonic, and yet we've got rock bands out there, some of whom are touring with no original members. Can you really go out as, say, Foreigner if nobody is in the band who was in the band when they got to be? Is it still Foreigner? Is it still The Temptations if you are touring and none of the original Temptations are in the band? Are bands becoming like orchestras?
I mean, is the ship of Theseus the same as the ship of Theseus?
Really? If every part on the damn boat has been replaced at some point in time, can you still say, oh yeah, this was Theseus's ship?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I think there's an epistemological issue there that we're not going to get into. But it makes me a little feisty because, yeah, I don't necessarily want to see a band where all of the musicians that I loved in their heyday are gone, but some people get like, oh, I shouldn't do it. It's evil, it's wrong, it's bad, it's immoral to go out and tour. And I wouldn't go that far. I would just say as a concert goer, you've got to be aware of what you're getting when you buy your tickets.
Absolutely.
Jennifer Slyenberger in the chat says, Foreigner Junior. I love that.
Is there a Foreigner Junior?
No, but I love that idea of, let's call him Foreigner Junior, Foreigner the Second.
Or Yes Junior.
Yeah, well, Yes actually has no original members, but they have a member who is one of the members who made them great and made them famous, Steve Howe.
Yes.
As long as Steve Howe is in the band, I consider them completely authentic.
I would consider Steve Howe to be an original member. I know they started out 1 year with a different guitarist, but Yes is not Yes without Steve Howe.
Yeah, Peter Banks was a good guitarist, but he didn't bring what Steve Howe did. And he was on their first 2 albums, but there you go. Yeah. Okay. I think that was it. Oh, wait, it's World Marriage Day.
Oh, excellent.
Yes. World Marriage Day has been around since 1983 in the United States of America. And so I have linked under shameless self-promotion and what we're listening to this week to a couple of our several episodes that we've done on the topic of marriage, going back as far as 2020. And with 2021 episode there, too. Where are we at here? 16 minutes until the Super Bowl begins.
Well, I was going to say World Marriage Day. I do hope that the entire world might accept 2 consenting adults as being married, no matter their gender or whatever.
It is amazing that same-sex marriage was so controversial so recently.
And actually, there are Republicans now who are, I forget who, but
they're fighting to roll that back.
Yeah, they are. Call your representatives. Send emails to Congress.
Yes. Now, somebody who will not be looking to roll that back if he is elected to the United States House of Representatives to represent Virginia's 5th Congressional District is Robert Trzynski.
Yes.
A very controversial figure in objectivist circles.
Somewhat. Not the most controversial figure.
But perhaps the most controversial thing he's doing in running for the House is he's running on the Democratic ticket.
He is. That's a interesting twist in that plot.
and so Amy and I actually spoke to him earlier today.
Yes.
His politics have not changed. His philosophy has not changed. It's the Republican Party that's changed. And it is now both more viable as far as the election goes and more reasonable for him not to be on the Republican ticket. He is going against the Republican there. I mention that because Amy and I are planning to interview Robert Trzynski, not next week, but the week after, 2 Sundays from today.
Yes.
And
that's the 22nd.
I am curious to know if any of you all have any thoughts on that, because it is a controversial election. It's also a controversial person within the objectivist community, and a lot of the people who watch or listen to this show are fans of Ayn Rand or even, like us, objectivists. Tell me if you have any thoughts about that. I mention it only because things in the Ayn Rand community have been fractious lately.
Somewhat.
To the point where some objectivists are saying, I'm not even going to call myself an objectivist anymore, given some of the other people out there who do.
It's fractious in Facebook land. That's it.
Well, and podcast land, and on YouTube, and on X, and all of the social media platforms. Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't regard it as much more than a tempest in a teapot or even a teacup. But
oh yes,
it gets to be serious when, I'm wearing a pink shirt on purpose today. You might think Robert looks like he's ready for a vacation. He looks super charming. Some of you might be thinking, Robert's wearing a pink shirt. Real men don't wear pink shirts.
Stop it.
You laugh, but a once prominent objectivist once made that point. In fact, somebody I was friends with, not just on the socials, but had met him once at Ocon, and we were friendly. And yeah, he made the claim that real men don't wear pink shirts. And on the Facebooks, on the social media networks, another prominent objectivist, whose name you would know, argued with him about that. And contentious objectivist number one would not back down. And you couldn't tell if he was actually being serious or not. How could anybody be serious about that? But he would not stop. It's like a comedian who will not drop the charade of some ridiculous thing that he said because it's part of the act, and no matter what, you never let people see the real you. It got to the point where, these guys are unfriending each other and denouncing each other. It wasn't just a silly thing. And I'm actually no longer friends with either of the two, even though I was before. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
If you are fighting your battles rationally, and that includes fighting about things that are actually worth fighting about, upholding things that are actually worth upholding.
And if you don't act mental,
well,
why would you even complain about that?
It is one of my failure modes that I will entertain just about anything that is put in front of me rather than just say, oh, that's crazy.
No, I call it when I see it.
Yeah.
Some people are just kind of not in the right mind.
You are often wiser than I am. And it's so good to see Narendra and Audrey on the Facebook side of things. Yeah. And of course, all these good people on YouTube.
Oh, Alex just checked in.
Outstanding.
From London, from around London.
Yeah, we've got several folks from the UK and from Europe, and it is good to see y'all in the chat. I wonder if if maybe the Super Bowl doesn't affect people overseas as much. They might not be as much into the pigskin.
Matthew said that you can find it for free to air to UK viewers on Channel 5, as well as Sky Sports if you have a subscription. So you can watch the Super Bowl.
I thought television was free in England. No, you have to pay a television license. Now, you folks in the United States might not be aware of that. You watch commercial television, OTR, over-the-air broadcasts, and you pay for it by having to watch commercials. In England, of course, they're above all of that. You don't have to pay commercials. We're not going to be commercial about this. Except they are. You have to pay a license for every television you own. So
that's strange.
One way or another, everything gets paid for.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, and by the way, it's Equal to Reality, aka Alex.
You keep outing people. Some people use screen names because they need
he's okay
anonymity.
With that. Okay.
Well, he can
tell me.
I guess it's
Alex. Tell me if you're not okay.
The cat is out of the bag.
But it's his birthday in 2 days, so happy birthday!
Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! We can sing that song now because it fell out of copyright just a few years ago. Did you know that's why most restaurants made up their own birthday themes, is because they actually weren't allowed? Like, how can you not be allowed? 1 million people every day are singing that song and not paying any royalties on it, sure, but if you're in a restaurant making money.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there you go for that. Yes, happy birthday. Happy You Day.
Yes.
And very, very cool.
Oh, thank you, Audrey. She says on Facebook, Amy being wiser makes her the superb owl. Thank you.
Amy is often smarter than I am. That's true. But it makes sense. You want a relationship where you can outclass one another on a regular, because you learn from each other.
Yes. Yes.
And Amy is all too happy to learn me, to teach me.
Greg says, my screen name is Covert. Haha.
That's right. Yes. I think Greg's real name was Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, that was the other guy. Yeah. Who knows? And I wonder, Lewis is a common name. I wonder how many Greg Lewises there are. So you may have an anonymity right there.
Yes.
The YouTube systems have made you... actually, you don't have a number after your name, unlike some folks. So I guess you can go in there afterward and change it to a friendly name if they had to assign you something less friendly for uniqueness purposes. In any event, where are we at here? 21 minutes into the hour. Superb Owl starts in 9 minutes, so I assume some of you will drop off at the bottom of the hour to watch what we call in America football.
Yeah.
But did you know there's a 4th season of Ted Lasso coming out this year? Or at least being filmed this year. There's some question of whether it would be released this year. And it may involve what we in America call soccer.
Yes.
In America, as opposed to in the UK, where the original 3 seasons took place.
Which is kind of funny because, you would think that soccer would actually be called football because they don't actually play. They don't actually use their hands. They can't use their arms or their hands. And in American football, we do.
Yeah, American football is played with the hands. Why don't we call it handball? Because we already have something called handball.
Hand and football.
Yeah, or just call it pigskin. Although I don't know if they still use pigskin to make footballs anymore.
They don't. They probably don't. It's probably too heavy.
Some kind of leather vinyl mix something. Who knows? Who knows? Matthew says American football is similar enough to rugby union that I understand what is happening.
Nice.
Yes. I actually like watching the Super Bowl, even though I rarely watch any other games unless they happen to be on someplace that I'm at. I was trying not to end the sentence with a preposition. We all know how that goes.
It's okay.
That's something you don't want to be guilty of.
Right. I mean, I'm always down for some hot chicken wings and some 7-layer dip, things like that, and then you're like, there's a sports ball on the television, and you're like, okay, I'll keep eating.
It's a good reason to have company and have snacks. It really is that. The other holiday this week is Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And again, that's why I'm wearing pink, is because real men do wear pink.
It is. As a matter of fact, pink was considered masculine because it's derivative of red, which was considered masculine, as opposed to blue, which was considered feminine. There you are.
Yeah, do you want baby blue, or do you want this kind of red almost color that's aggressive and warlike and, tough?
And speaking of Valentine's Day, again, Valentine's Day is officially second Halloween, if you are into that, and I think you should be. But it's also based on Lupercalia, which is a pastoral event of ancient Rome observed annually on February 15th to purify the city for some reason. Oh, promoting health and fertility, I suppose. I think it has something to do with people like thrashing each other with like cords and things.
Yes. Yes. There is a reason why Amy calls Valentine's Day second Halloween, even though I'm not really, it's not my jam, but as I say, there need to be differences between the two people in a couple, and that's one of ours. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Now, I asked on the socials, in preparation for our discussion, we all know what your superpower is, but what is your super weapon?
I revealed on Facebook that it is silly string. That is my super weapon.
Silly string. Well, that's, I would be all in favor of taking everybody right about now who is using pepper spray and replacing it with silly string.
Yes.
Well, I mean, not women who actually need it as a personal defense weapon, but but everybody else who's using pepper spray, yeah, let's switch them all to silly string. I think that would make things kinder and gentler, as one of our Republican presidents once said, and better. I'm good with that. I mean, whatever is happening that people are being pepper sprayed for these days, silly string would probably get the job done.
Maybe.
I think so. I think it would do it.
We'll see. It might disarm or de-escalate or something like that. But yeah.
The reason this question came up,
why?
And you can see why it's related to silly string, is I was listening to James Stevens Valiant earlier today, and he was on a show about the ICE agents. It turns out he wasn't, actually. He was talking about epistemology. He was reviewing Opar, Ayn Rand's Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand by Leonard Peikoff. The show was simply mistitled. They fixed that, and that was fine. That conversation is going to happen on Tuesday. If you are a member of the Ayn Rand Center UK, you can listen in on that conversation. You can be part of that conversation. It's a members-only show that's going to happen this Tuesday. But listening to James talk about that topic, as he has this week, it's a real question for me. I'm curious what you all think, and please feel free to weigh in the chat. Even though this is a little heavy, this can go in our Robert and Amy Take on the News segment. James has made the point that so long as ICE is a enforcement arm of the U.S. government, they should not be interfered with. If you have a problem with what they do, that needs to be remedied through legal channels that don't violate their mandate and don't violate anybody's property rights. So, for example, in the Don Lemon case, he was violating the property rights of the church and of the individuals there. And a lot of us, I think we have a natural reaction of, well, that's a very small issue, and what people are protesting is a very big issue. Mm-hmm. That by itself, though, wouldn't justify it. The real question is there ever a place for civil disobedience which does violate some rights, some property rights? Again, if you could limit it all to just, well, okay, we'll only do these things on public property and we won't actually get in the way of anybody going about their daily business. But obviously what's happening nowadays is way, way beyond that. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to say, well, then no. People shouldn't protest unless they can do it on public places and without interfering with anybody else's freedom of action. But what if we had tried to hold to that standard in the past? Mm-hmm. Say in the 1800s, fighting slavery, or in the 1960s, the civil rights era. Is there never a place for that kind of action when something that is happening is so much a violation of rights, whether it's against the law or not, that small incursions can be justified, small violations of rights being on somebody's property, for example, or interfering with some process in some minor way? And I'm inclined to think so. I made the point before that if you are with your child and you're starving to death and your only option is to break a window and steal a loaf of bread, some of you will recognize that setup. Now, some would say, well, okay, that's an appeal to the ethics of emergencies. And my point on that regard is an honest man who's going to do that, who's going to break the law and even violate somebody else's property rights. It may well be the moral thing for him to do, but if he is a moral man, his next move is going to be to confess to what he's done and be willing to take his punishment, take the rap. It gets more complicated. For example, if you're raising a child and the child will be left without a parent, if you confess, you can make that as complicated as you want, turn it into a borderline case. My point is it always wrong to not do the wrong thing or to not violate the law or violate somebody's rights? And I'm skeptical. And I'm curious what you all think. And I'll be raising this conversation on the socials if you'd rather offer me your opinion in writing. But I'm curious in the chat. Do you think, for example, James is right to think that the recent shootings by ICE agents, the 2 deaths that have happened, were justified? Not that they were a good thing, they were tragedies, but that the agents involved did not break the law and should not be prosecuted? Or do you think that the full context goes above and beyond the specifics of the law? You can probably tell where my thoughts go with that, and certainly where my sympathies lie. But I'm still working it out.
Yeah, I mean, I only have a cursory glance at what James was talking about.
Yeah, and I don't even want to get too much into what he's saying,
Yeah,
but
that's right.
But the question is, should we be saying, as much as we disagree with the way that ICE is doing their job, they are doing their job, and it is a job that is, they have the right to do that. That is the law, and they're enforcing the law.
Well, I would compare the situation to another context in which there is lawlessness. So there's contradicting laws, or there is lack of law enforcement, or there is corruption in law enforcement. In a Western, this is how I'm thinking of it right now. This isn't necessarily a civil. I think civil rights. The civil rights movement was a really good example, but just thinking in terms of if you are somebody who is hit in the face, punched in the face by, the some miscreant in the Wild West in a saloon, for instance, and you hit him back. And in doing so, you break the saloon owner's table, you break his window, because, your punches, defensive tactics are so powerful. This is what happens. Are you just supposed to say, you know what, I'm not going to hit you back because it might break this person's table and it might infringe on the guy's property rights. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that punch and, or do you fight back and try to restrain the person who originally started this? And I'm sure a lot of people will say this is too simplistic, but there is a situation. It's not as so much of a degree of lawlessness as there would be in the Wild West, but I think in this situation in Minnesota especially, there is lawlessness. It is anarchic. There is anarchy going on. There is conflicting law enforcement conflicting. In other words, not everybody with a gun who claims that they're law enforcement is actually abiding by the same laws. So you have contradictions in that. And but I got to tell you, I am extremely impressed by the protesters in Minnesota and Minneapolis and St. Paul and around the country, actually. In terms of civil disobedience, in terms of peaceful protest, they have not taken the bait. In so many ways, people being beaten, dragged out of their cars. Their lives have been threatened.
Some of those cases are very easy and obvious.
Yeah, but I just want to say real quick that I just want to commend the people of Minnesota, especially for staying peaceful. That takes a lot of work to do, and that takes a lot of conviction and a lot of moral clarity. Ian asks, for example, what is interfering? Is recording from nearby okay? Yeah. You're not in their space. There's no objective way to say, I'm 10 feet away from you and I'm going to back up if you need the space that I'm in right now. That's not interfering. I mean, you're in a big city. You're going to have people all over the place, whether they're there to be a constitutional observer or not, whether they're there with a camera or not. It's a big city. You're not going to say, there are people who actually resided within the block of me arresting a legal immigrant. Therefore, they're interfering. That's ridiculous. So there are certainly objective ways to prove this and precedents that have already been set. And I'm proud of those people who are in Minnesota who are being constitutional observers, who are peacefully protesting, and especially the ones who have taken up singing. And I just want to give a shout out to all of them. It's called it's called the Singing Resistance Training that they have. There are thousands, I don't know, who knows how many people showing up in Minneapolis, for instance. They're going to, Universalist Unitarian churches or Presbyterian churches or whatever, getting together and actually singing songs, protest songs, which they're singing in the streets, which I think is absolutely beautiful and a perfect way to protest. And it reminds me so much of what the Estonians did in Estonia during the time that the Soviets were occupying them.
The so-called singing revolution.
Yeah, the singing revolution. Estonia has their own patriotic hymns, and what they were doing was they were getting together and they were peacefully protesting and singing these songs. And that, not only showed that the tyrants in the Soviet Union that these people did not want them there. They were pushing back. They were demanding that they leave. They were demanding freedom, and also it simultaneously encouraged all the protesters there. It encouraged all the people who were under the thumb of the government and people who were being detained without due process, as I'm sure they were in Estonia, as they are today in the United States of America. Which I can't even believe that. It's so disgusting what's happening and so heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah, Bonnie brings up more of an edge case. What about the whistles and disturbing the peace? And
I mean, there is a cost you've got to pay for being for doing that. Yes. Is it worth it?
Is it worth it to risk getting ticketed for disturbing the peace?
Absolutely. In that situation, yes. Again, I see this here as a situation that is worse than the Japanese internment camps. These facilities that ICE runs, there was a lady who was autistic who was dragged out of her vehicle, who has a brain injury, and she was on their way to her doctor's, and they took her out. She was born there, I think, in Minnesota. And when she was describing what was happening when she first was, hands tied back and led into this facility at the Whipple building there, they referred to people not as people or as a man or a woman or anything like that. They called them bodies. The ICE agents referred to the individuals that they were incarcerating as bodies. And that really got me. That's absolutely evil and disgusting. And I don't care who you are, what kind of, I don't care who you are. That is not law enforcement. This is anarchy. This is the brutality. This is authoritarianism. And there's no other name for it. And these camps are basically concentration camps. If you look at the definition of what one is, of course, they're not forced labor camps and they're not gassing people, but they're concentrating people together in a situation where they're not receiving medical care. They're not receiving proper food. The facilities are horrible. They're being beaten. I mean, it's really bad. And I really don't know how we're going to come back from this as a country. I really don't.
Well, there's some people who would say most of the people in those facilities deserve to be treated the way they are. They are lawbreakers, and they're just being held there until they can be thrown out of the country, and that's what you've got to do if you're going to enforce the laws that we've got. And I think the folks who would say that kind of shrug off the collateral damage, the people who are put in those facilities mistakenly that don't belong there and are eventually released. That, some innocent people are going to get arrested, even by regular police for regular crimes. Forget about immigration. And that's just the price you pay for having a legal system. The difference is, of course, that in the immigration enforcement system, there's no due process. There's no recourse. There's no recourse to the courts. There's no way that you can sue the people who mistreated you if they did and falsely arrested you if they did. It's very, very different. But it's amazing how, depending on how you see the situation, you can have this entirely opposite viewpoint of, these are just law enforcement officers doing their best to do their job. And if people would stop making it hard on them. So there are, even in our chat, we have a variety of opinions. For example, Tom says, well, those 2 shootings probably would not have happened if not for the brazen attitude and no consequences from BLM and climate change activists over the last 20 years or so. I'm not sure that follows, but the one thing that I would say in answer is that you might be imagining a counterfactual, an alternative that is unrealistic. If there had not been BLM and climate change activists over the last 20 years or so, do you imagine, well, then things just would have been more peaceful? There wouldn't have been anything else, in other words, without those particular protests. There would not have been. And you can name 25 other organizations going back, well, you can go back to the 60s or go back to the 80s or go back to Occupy Wall Street or go back to Attack Watch or go back to, in other words, BLM and climate change activists are one part of a landscape. Take those 2 organizations away and you would have other groups taking up that energy. And of course, if you have the perspective that it's all nihilism and it's just bad energy and nothing needs to replace it, you might imagine that nothing would replace it. But I don't think that that's the case. In any event, it is interesting that you bring that up. And it's good that you bring it up because, again, we do want to understand all sides of this, especially within the rationality community. Stephen, who knows something about immigration law because he practices it, says most detention centers are run by private companies like the Geo Group. How do they get the right to harm prisoners?
Good question.
Well, the answer would be they're not deliberately harming prisoners. They're doing what they've got to do to run that kind of facility. I would, of course, question that, but that's going to be the answer to that is they're not intentionally hurting anybody. It's just something that happens as part of running that kind of facility. And if you were dealing with the kind of people that they were, you would understand. To which Matthew says, dehumanization, exactly what the Nazis did to the Jews. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say exactly. It is exactly dehumanization, yes. Mm-hmm. It is saying these people don't deserve. Think of the people who say, for example, that illegal immigrants don't have individual rights. That rights are something that are granted by our Constitution, and our Constitution doesn't apply to people who don't belong here. Which is just bizarre. Do they not understand what the word inalienable means?
Right.
Do they not understand the Declaration of Independence and that rights are not bestowed by our government? And whether you believe they're bestowed by a creator or just by natural law, they apply to everybody. And that goes without saying. Obviously, Americans traveling abroad have individual rights, even if we're not in the United States of America, and we can and should expect to be treated with the rights that we've got. And likewise, foreigners who come here. Would you say, for example, that foreigners who come to the United States legally, whether on vacation or through valid immigration processes, would you say they don't have any individual rights just because they're not citizens? I mean, it's absurd. It's an absurd argument.
Yeah, and I appreciate Bonnie saying, quietly filming seems reasonable, but the whistles are so loud, they make it difficult to think. What about the residents, night shift workers, kids, etc.? Where do you draw the line? I'll say this. There is a culture in Minneapolis, for instance, now. It has sprung up, in the last few months, all of a sudden, because it's out of necessity. There are people who have watched their neighbors be forcibly ripped out of their homes or cars or whatever people are constantly on alert because no one knows who's going to be next. They may have brown skin, but they were born there. So it's anarchic. There's anarchy happening in Minneapolis. There is an ethic of emergencies here, and the idea of whistling to inform people who might be taken, whether you're brown skinned and born in the United States of America or an illegal immigrant, however, they're warning people to go hide. I mean, that unfortunately, that's the situation there. What if there were no more illegal immigrants there in Minneapolis? ICE would probably still be there, and they would still be trying to, tackle people with brown skin to the ground, or people who had an accent, who were naturalized citizens. So people are seeing their neighbors do this. It's become a part of the culture, and people gathering in the thousands and the hundreds, singing, not just protest songs, but songs of encouragement, songs of love, songs that are getting people through these horrible nightmarish experiences. And this is a cultural norm that has come out of this situation, and I think is absolutely valid. And you know what else I think is valid? Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras. All of that noise from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, all throughout the night. People yelling and screaming in the French Quarter, people blowing horns, people gathering and doing all sorts of things together in celebration of Mardi Gras.
I think that one qualifies, though, as an instance of coming to the nuisance. Property owners there know what they're getting into when they buy property in the French Quarter. But
the thing is that no one has. There was an instance recently where, last summer in New Orleans, where there was a guy who lived on a balcony, and he liked blowing bubbles. He liked to have bubbles wafting, across the street and everything. The guy who owned the bar below him, or some property below him, hated it. They wanted him to stop, and because the culture and the precedent was already there, that it's a party town. Of course, the guy retained his right to blow bubbles from his balcony. And so
I'm kind of skeptical of that one.
But there are social norms and precedents that we have to accept. And unfortunately, just like in the goddamn Wild West, saloon owners, like Jennifer said, had, there's still a particular kind of insurance.
Well, yeah, the bar insurance.
Bar owners have to have.
I know the answer to that is, but it's not the Wild West anymore. And that gets into the real question of, are we at a point now where we always have, again, recourse to the law, where we can fight these things through the courts and not in the streets? Is there a place for that kind of protest anymore? And it's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Narendra is on the other side of the planet and says, I agree with James, but one must present all facts, all crucial facts, beyond our wishes. ICE under Trump are being illegal. And I don't know if this is a legal point he's making, but Trump, Narendra says, and he's absolutely right, Trump has a maniacal power lust, plus a religious agenda. I don't know. There was an interesting discussion about that on the Bulwark podcast recently, that America's evangelical leaders are still firmly behind Trump, even though he violates every single norm of just about any Christian church in the United States. It is most bizarre. Incidentally, Stephen Katz is keeping us up to date. He says Joe Montana tossed the coin. That's cool. It's a good thing that they chose Joe Montana for that. He played for the 49ers and the Chiefs, who have been in the Super Bowl recently, but are not this year, so no bias there. The Patriots deferred and Seahawks elected to take the ball first. And Steve offers his opinion. I would take the ball in the second half. Okay, good. And trust me, you haven't missed anything yet. It's early times, and I'm sure Steve will tell us if anybody scores before we wrap up here.
All right, and real quick, and this is where it's going to come up again in 2 weeks when we interview Rob Trzynski. But this is his book. The cover has been redesigned by Robert.
Well, I couldn't stand having Trump's face showing on our coffee table all the time, so that had to go.
So this is Dictator from Day One, How Donald Trump is Overthrowing the Constitution, How to Fight Back by Rob Trzynski.
Yeah, I'll take off these sticky notes
don't do that.
of Adolf J. Trump there. This is what the book actually looks like, in case you're at your Barnes & Noble and are looking for the book. Frankly, I think my redesign is much more palatable.
It actually is pretty much approved by Rob Trzynski. So
yeah, he liked the sticky notes.
He liked it. But anyway, there's a chapter in here, Chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
How to Fight Back.
If you've got the book and you haven't finished reading it yet, but you want
you
some
can just skip to this.
encouragement, go to chapter. You should read the whole book, but go to Chapter 7. Like, it's a contemporary version of Ayn Rand's essay, What Can One Do? Because it is all about, well, what can one person do? What can you do?
Yeah.
Ayn Rand made the point that, well, what can one do about the state of the world? And her answer was nothing. If you ask the question that way, there's nothing one person can do. But then she answers the question of exactly what one can do. Well, Rob Trzynski has some answers for you for what's going on nowadays, too.
Yeah.
And part of what he's doing is running for the House.
I hope you can join us in 2 weeks and be here for that interview so we can figure out what we need to do and solve some problems.
It's going to be good. Whether you're a Trzynski fan or not, it's going to be a very, very interesting conversation. So I asked on the socials, we all know what your superpower is, but what is your super weapon? Well, what is your superpower? Do we all know what our superpower is? Well, you fans of 5 minutes know your superpower is reason, human faculty of reason.
Yes.
And your ally, what do you mean your ally? My ally is what? My friends, my family, my country, except for the guy running it? No, your ally is reality. Reality is your ally and reason is your superpower. But what is your super weapon? And there were some great answers in here, actually. Brittany, who is a nurse, says dark humor. That's how she gets through the challenges of being a nurse, for example.
Gallows humor.
Right. Similar answer from Louise, who says my sense of humor. I'm using first names, but actually this is all public. It's a public thread, so there you go. Sam says compassion. And I get that. I don't know if it's much of a weapon, but sometimes the best weapon is the weapon that disarms. It turns your enemy into an ally. So there you go. And Carrie Ann says, I never think in terms of a weapon unless it's a physical weapon or a roundhouse kick upside the head. But something that disarms others is my generally not giving a flying hootenanny what they think or feel about me. And then she quotes Howard Rourke, but I don't think of you. Yes, Avi, of course, chose silly string. Professor R. Kevin says, verbal facility, fading with age, alas, crazy resilience, ability to imagine others' point of view from the inside. Also, in grad school, I was told Hills read everything, but this was not true then or now. Okay. Paul Gay, who is a Hollywood writer of some note, says, tickling. I have not tried tickling on my enemies. I have tried it on some of my allies, though. But thank you for that suggestion. Gary Menard says the U.S. Constitution. Well, that is a hell of a weapon. Louise says empathy is another. I think she's going back to Sam. Pointing out the secondary consequences of people's goofy ideas that they didn't seem to realize, says Jennifer. Very good. Lots of good answers in there. The American Capitalist Party said reason, the same answer that I gave for your greatest superpower. And I don't know if that was Mark or Michael or...
yeah, it's either Mark or Michael.
Yeah. Or Persephone, who does the posts on their website.
Could be.
So that might have been Persephone there, who has been co-hosting with Michael out this week since Mark has been busy acting out. I mean acting, because that's what he does for a living. Maria says, my confidence, which I think is outstanding. I don't know if it's literally a weapon, but it is an enormous
asset
and
Yes.
power in that regard. Oh, that was interesting. I just clicked the wrong thing and it took me away from my own page. Let me get back to there real quick, just in case there were any others I needed to mention real quick.
Yeah, Jennifer Lineberger here in the YouTube chat says resistance to cold, LOL.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, Jennifer loves the snow.
Yes, Jennifer lives on the islands, but unfortunately it's an island just outside Detroit.
It's a very, very icy island,
So
snowy island right now.
Not necessarily what we think of when we think of living on the islands, but she does live on a beautiful island. That is true.
Yeah, Jennifer, as a matter of fact, her superpower is walking on lakes.
She can walk on water. And she does every winter. But her dog can do that too. So her dog is
Yeah, that's true. They both have this
is equally
superpower.
holy, equally elevated, and transcendent. And she really is. And my point in bringing it up, and all of you already know this, but anybody else who is not as familiar with what we do here, I've made the point before, and I'll make it again, that philosophy makes a better tool than a weapon, but it actually does make a great weapon. Mm-hmm. The challenge we're running into with current events, and especially in politics, and both on the left and more than ever before on the right, is that their greatest weapon is no longer rationality. It's no longer philosophy. It's no longer virtue. Mm-hmm. And really, virtue is the right answer. The reason I called the show Fight Fire with Love, I don't mean love your enemies. What I mean is fight fire with values.
Yes.
That is what too many people in the present context, including our current head honcho, fail to do all too much of the time. But virtue remains your greatest weapon. You know, the previous president said something about bringing a knife to a gunfight and how you've got to bring, better weapons. I can't think of any better weapon to bring to any fight beyond reason and virtue. The reason we take the high road rather than going low, like some people do, isn't because we're above all of that and we just ignore evil. It's that we use the weapons that best fight evil. If we decide the world is so screwed up, and this is true whether you want to think of the economy, tariffs, or whether you want to think about the immigration situation, ice holes, you can't fight what's going on by being equally evil. And in that sense, James Valiant is right. I've talked about fighting words before, speaking of bar fights. Are there some words that are so bad that you've got to punch somebody in the face if he says them? Now, some of you are thinking, my self-esteem is so strong that no matter what insult somebody throws at me, I'm never going to slap a guy or slug a guy. I'm going to respect individual rights, whether he does or not. But what if you're in a bar and somebody insults your wife? Or worse, insults your children to their face? Fighting words. But ultimately, the best words to fight with are words, are rational ideas. We have got to be not dirtier than our dirtiest enemies, but better than our dirtiest enemies. And not only is that how you win the fight, it's how you survive. We talk about being above the fray. That doesn't mean you never get in the fray. It doesn't mean you never get your hands dirty. But it does mean that you fight in a way that is worth winning. You
Yes.
fight for the good. It's why you fight evil. Don't ever lose sight of that. Valentine's Day is coming up, a good week to think about your values and your virtues, whether you're celebrating Valentine's Day with your Valentine, or you're doing it single with friends or family, or your own good self. We just had Rand's Day. good day of self-celebration, and Valentine's Day is going to be that for you this year, that's okay too. I've even posted 17 ways to celebrate Valentine's Day single, and an old WikiHow article that I actually like, what to do for Valentine's Day solo or with a partner. I'm not going to read those right now. The links are in the show notes. Look at the description on YouTube and on Facebook.
Yes, and with you were talking about monsters, it was very reminiscent of an old Frederick, warm-hearted, loving
Freddie Nietzsche?
Fred Nietzsche Peachy quote.
And what did Nietzsche say to us?
Well, it wasn't quite warm-hearted, but he cautioned us. He says, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process, he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. So be careful with how you're fighting.
That's right.
Make sure that you don't fall to cynicism or the belief that human beings are not or cannot be heroic. Because I have seen, depending on how you focus, you can read the news all day and see what horrible people there are out in the world actually wielding power. But there are people, like I say, in Minnesota and elsewhere around the country who are doing heroic things every single day, actions that take a hell of a lot of courage and are morally right.
Yes. And if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. Okay, that's just the opening stanza to Rudyard Kipling's poem, If. We've read the whole thing on the show before, and I'm sure we'll do that again, but Amy has posted it on her Facebook wall.
Yes.
And you can seek it out on the internet and read that the next time you think, A, there's no hope, bad guys are winning, and B, if I'm going to beat bad guys, I got to just get ugly and nasty and fight with insults and memes and cheap shots, because that's all people listen to anymore. Read that poem. It's not just a call to be above the fray. It's a call to be a better man or a better woman, and in doing so, be more effective, not less, when you have to engage with everything that's going on out there. So thank you, Amy, for posting that this week.
You're welcome, Robert.
That reminder is always welcome. Folks, thank you to those of you who have stuck it out till the end here. Let me see if there's anything in the last few chat comments here that I should mention before wrapping it up. Tom actually lives in Edmonton. I used to love the cold and ice skating, hockey outside. Yeah, used to. I used to love the cold too. I've been bike riding in the snow lately, so I guess I can't say that I hate it. I'm so ready for springtime. This winter has been tough.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Went longer than we expected, I thought, with the superb owl flying around in town, that we would wrap up early. But don't I always say that? And hey, this is early. This is earlier than usual. Again, we're glad you've come, glad you are here. Please reach out to us on the socials and engage with us over the course of the coming week. Don't know. I haven't decided what next Sunday's show is going to be about, but the Sunday after that will be one of our interview shows, which I know you like, because our view counts always go up for the interview shows, and we'll see if Robert Trzynski, can make that kind of magic happen for us. Or are you all confused? Why is this guy a Democrat? He's not a Democrat. He's on the Democratic Party. We've seen that before. People going to the party that makes it possible for them to do the most good. And I think, although we'll find out when we talk to him, that's what's going on here.
2 weeks.
You know, there's no room for good Republicans anymore. They knocked Justin Amash, for example, out. Even less bad, like old neocon types like Liz Cheney. Just anybody who's willing to speak up against the administration, there's no room for them. We'll see how long Thomas Massey lasts. So small wonder that Mr. Tuzinski has decided, at least at this point, it's better to run as a Democrat. I'll be looking more into it before the interview, but at least at this point, I say more power to him. Let's see how he does.
Yep.
And that's it. All that is left is for us to thank you for being here and to wish you all of the success that you so richly deserve. If you could, please click the like button on YouTube. Like the show. Help us out with our stats, with our numbers, with Al Gore's rhythm. We need your help getting the show to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Our subscriber count has gone up a bit, but we need to boost that. So please consider sharing the show with people that you know and respect. I'm sure all of the people who love and follow you on X or on Facebook or on Instagram, WhatsApp, wherever it is that you share the things that you share. If you got a little extra pocket change, we could use your help there too. Go to patreon.com/Robert Nasir or just follow the link at robertnasir.com. And please consider joining the extra special exclusive group of those who already support this show financially, sending a little money our way each month. Thank you to those of you who are doing that. And I think that's it. That's all I got to say. Have you got anything else to say?
That's it.
Oh, wait. Well, I forgot one thing.
What?
Because as always, if you've made it this long in the show, whether you're listening to a podcast later or you're watching us live, you are the best audience in podcasting, at least as far as we're concerned. And that is why we wish you love.